We're going to talk about sutures of the norma frontalis. So this topic can really help you in adding notes, adding more points into your short answers, adding points into your essays. It can help you in discussion, in viva, in other topics as well. It just depends on where you know how to apply it. For example, if they ask about the skull, you can add points about these sutures, and it can really give you something to talk about when you feel blank, or if you feel like you don't know what else to write in the paper. You can add these points. These are good points, and these are basic points which someone should know. It's the sutures of the norma frontalis of the skull. So every medico should know this, essentially. So we're going to start with the articulations. And lateral to the orbit, the frontal bone gives off zygomatic process. Frontal zygomatic process, frontozygomatic suture. Simple. The nasal part of the frontal bone projects downwards on either side of the that's first point. On either side of the midline, it joins the frontal process of the maxilla at the frontomaxillary suture. Frontomaxillary, frontonasal suture. So that's 1, 2, 3. We have covered 3 sutures. So the thing about learning this way is when you read it in the textbooks, it's all given as a cluster. So because it is in a cluster, it's hard to visualize, hard to differentiate. So it's important to separate it this way. It helps you really visualize things and set things straight. So I would suggest everyone to do this as well. Make your own notes, do your own effort. It will really help you, and you will really thank yourself later. Moving on, we're gonna cover all of the sutures, and then I'll tell you a trick to remember them. We're going to separate them equally. So moving on, 2 nasal bones join at the internal suture, and next point, and the frontal process of the maxilla at the nasomaxillary suture. So nasal bone plus maxilla is nasomaxillary suture. This is fourth one. Below the nasal aperture, the right and left maxilla meet at the intermaxillary suture. Intermaxillary suture. Maxilla plus maxilla, intermaxillary suture. Then laterally to the zygomatic process of the maxilla articulates with the maxillary process of the zygomatic bone. Just by reading you can tell. Zygomatic process of the maxilla articulates with the maxillary process of the zygomatic bone. Zygomatico-maxillary suture. So as there is intermaxillary suture, there is also internasal suture. I don't know if I said that properly. I don't know if I was clear, so I'm going to say it again. The 2 nasal bones join at the internasal suture. Okay. Similarly, below the nasal aperture, right and left maxilla, intermaxillary suture. Between these two, like conjoining these two, the nasal and the maxillary part, we have nasomaxillary suture. Then we spoke about the zygomatic process and the maxilla articulating together, giving zygomatico-maxillary suture. Finally, we have lacrimo-maxillary suture. Lacrimal bone, the maxillary bone, both together. Okay, so the way to differentiate this is first, remember lacrimo-maxillary suture. This is the black code, this is the odd one out. So lacrimal bone plus maxillary bone. You can remember it because it's roughly at the same location of the skull. So lacrimal plus maxillary, lacrimo-maxillary suture. Okay, just remember this one. We're going to go from down to up now. So that's 1. Zygomatic plus maxillary. So zygomatico-maxillary. This is another one. These two are similar because it has something to do with the maxilla. So that's 1. That's 2. Zygomatico-maxillary. There are differentiated into 2-3 types. Like for example, there is fronto sutures, there are intersutures, and then there is maxillary related sutures. So maxillary, zygomatico-maxillary, lacrimo-maxillary, these 2 types, 1 and 2. Then we're going to talk about the intersutures. So intersuture. Before we go to intersutures, let's discuss this one. Nasomaxillary sutures. This is going to be 3. This is our 3rd maxillary type of suture. Nasomaxillary, zygomatico-maxillary, lacrimo-maxillary. Then intertype of sutures. We have internasal suture, that's one, and we have intermaxillary suture, that's two. So what is our count? 3 plus 2. 5 sutures are done. So we are done up till here. Now the fronto sutures: frontonasal suture, frontomaxillary suture, frontozygomatic suture. That is 3. So we had 5 plus 3, 8 sutures in total. Frontonasal, frontomaxillary, frontozygomatic, 3. Then internasal, intermaxillary, 2. Nasomaxillary, now the maxillary type: nasomaxillary, zygomaticomaxillary, lacrimomaxillary. Hope this was helpful. Thank you all for watching.